Hey, what's up? Welcome to Degen Ed. That's degenerative education, meaning none of this is financial advice. Just me having fun looking at charts, like the chart behind me, which is of Lucid Motors, ticker symbol LCID. And I will also be following up on Polestar Automotive, ticker symbol PSNY. And so the reason why I wanted to go over both of these tickers in this video is because they're both EV stocks, both looking like they're at pretty good discounts, and both in this bullish falling wedge pattern that you can see here. And so I do think that there is a little bit more downside for both of them. I do think that there is key resistance above them that they will both need to break above. But I do think that over the course of the next month, it could be a really great time to accumulate them or average down. And so I'm just going to dive right into the charts. And so with Lucid, closed last week on January 12th, Friday, at $3.05, going after hours to $3.03. And we can see here, like I said, there is this falling wedge pattern. And I want to note, I do have this grayed out line here. I drew that during the live stream, but currently, the price is trading below that trend line where you can see the pivot points with those blue circles. And so I adjusted the support of this wedge to be these two pivot points based on the lows here around January 19th, 2023, and then around June 23rd, 2023. So that's how you get that support line, and price is currently trading just above that right now. Then to get the top of the wedge, that is based on, let's see, the highs here from right around January 30th, 2023, and then more recently, December 14th, around there, 2023. And so what I see, big picture with the chart, first, before I forget, looking at the RSI, that is 23.75, so that is suggesting that it is oversold. However, I do think that there is further downside, which I will go over in a minute, before it continues up, or before it reverses and starts to go up. I do see, before I zoom in, there is this gap up here to right around $10. I didn't see any other gaps standing out, so I do believe this is the closest one. I might have missed one, though. I do see as well this big volume shelf here that ranges from about $6 up to $7.50. And then there's a little bit of a gap in the volume traded here. And so I'm going to zoom in on that area to go over some of these levels. And so what I have here, the level that I think is going to be pretty significant resistance is right around $4, marked by this red line here. We can see that we broke through that on January 3rd. That had served as support previously. That's why we do see this volume shelf. And price has kind of tanked since then, getting near the bottom of this wedge. And from this move up, basically a Fibonacci retracement from the low of November 10th to the high of December 14th, I see this level at about $2.60 or $2.57.6, which is the 1618 retracement, 161.8% retracement of the Fibonacci. And so I do think that price could be going down to around $2.60, $2.55. So be prepared for that. And then if I were to switch over to the weekly chart or the weekly candles, the intersection with next week's candle and the wedge would be right around $2.82, this green line. So that's why I have that mark there. So it's quite possible we see price going down to around $2.80 next week, but it could also go lower, like to around $2.60. And then moving to the upside, a significant level that had served as support over here, and then more recently resistance, is $5, marked by the yellow line. And I also have that marked there because if we look over at the max pain for Lucid for next week, closing the week January 19th, the max pain is $5. However, I don't think that the price will be going to $5 next week. I think that is really just that this is the monthly options contract. So months ago, people were betting on price being around $5. it's actually a lot lower at around $3 now. So I don't think it's going to be squeezing up to 5. But if we do look at the following week's Max Pain, closing the following week on January 26th, the max pain is $350, and so I do think that is a more reasonable price target to be looking for. And so going to $350 would be, let's see, going to right around this touch point here of the base of the wedge. So I do think that is something we could be returning to. And then also I do have this green line here drawn at $5.50 based on the lows of around June 23rd, 2023, having served as resistance over here. And so, I do think that's going to be a significant level to get to, especially because we do start to see the volume traded above that level to be pretty heavy, meaning that it's going to be tough for us to break above those levels, really starting at around $6 to $7.50, as I had mentioned. But now, I'm going to switch over to Polestar, which I had previously covered, and I want to say I did kind of jump the gun on thinking that $2 would be support. As it turns out, it has not acted as support. And similar to the Lucid chart, we do see over here that $4 was support before it broke down. And with Polestar, we see that red line at $2 had been support, but then it broke down. And so these charts look pretty similar as far as the current trading goes, really over like the past month or so, and also the broader picture falling wedge pattern, which we can see here based on the lows of right around October 24th, 2022, and then coming down to this pivot point here around the end of September 2023. And then the top of the wedge is based on the high here around November 25th. And then this pivot point around the high of, let's see, July 11th, 2023, which also coincides with this purple line right around $5 that had been resistance there. And similar to Lucid, the options contract for next week for Polestar, closing the week January 19th, is $5. And so with Polestar being at less than $2 a share, I don't think it's going to be squeezing up to $5 by the end of the next week. I think that's really just, price was previously a lot higher. That's when those options contracts were purchased with strikes of $5, that being max pain now. Those are going to be closing out of the money for calls, suggesting that bears have control. And that it makes sense because price is down. But if we look at the following options contract expiration for the max pain, which is actually the following month, there are only monthly contracts for Polestar. And so closing February 16th, that week, that Friday, max pain is $2. And so that is this red line, significant level of resistance now. So I could see price going up to around $2 around a month from now. So we'll have to wait and see about that. But then anyways, zooming in on the chart, and before I get too far into it, do want to point out the RSI is 2684, so lower than 30, meaning it's oversold. But it is slightly higher than Lucid's, which is 2375. But still, it is oversold here. Oh, and I think I forgot to mark it. Dang it. But it does look like we do have bullish divergence in the RSI here. We do have higher lows forming going back to, let's see, the end of September, around September 25th. We have lower lows in the price, higher lows in the RSI. That's bullish divergence. Whereas if we compare that with Lucid, we don't see that bullish divergence. We do, in fact, see lower lows forming in the RSI. And so because these stocks do look pretty similar, I would say that the bullish divergence that we see here is probably not that significant. But anyways, looking at the charts, I did mention this level around $5. There are these two gaps to the upside, one at 376, another at around 312. Volume shelf between them, so I do think it will be tough to fill both, but once we do fill the first one, we might reside there before moving higher. Zooming in, I did also do Fibonacci retracement from the lows here to the high, and that 1618 retracement would bring price down to around $1.56.6. And I have a line drawn at $1.55, and that is really based on the weekly candle for next week. That would intersect with the bottom of the wedge around $1.55. I could, though, see it going to $1.50, that just being more of a psychological level. So those are potential lows for next week, potentially the following week as well. But then looking at these other levels I have marked here, this green line is at 290. The highs here had acted as resistance. I don't think it will necessarily act as significant resistance moving forward. It could be support because we do see this kind of volume shelf below that. What I do think will be levels that will be tough to get to, like I said, $2, this red line. Just above that, this orange line at 217 based on the lows over here around the end of September. And then this yellow line does look like we did have some consolidation up there, and then it served as resistance later on, that being at 250, also kind of a psychological level. And there's one thing I wanted to point out with these two stocks. Yes, if we take a measurement from basically the price of Polestar back to this red line that is now resistance, significant resistance, that is around a 15 to 20% move, I believe, whereas going back to the red line with Lucid, that is closer to a 30 or 33% move to the upside. So that is something to consider. While Polestar is much cheaper per share, Lucid does have more potential upside getting to the next significant level of resistance. However, it could bump into some resistance around 360, where we do see this low here around November 10th. Whereas with Polestar, the next level of resistance is that red line. So for both of these, I could see continuation downward next week. But with both of them, I do feel like they have a lot of potential upside, especially being in these wedge patterns. But we do have to find the bottom. And so hopefully we'll find that in the next couple of weeks before we start to move higher and then test these red lines that are currently acting as resistance. And if you found my thoughts helpful, make sure you like the video and share your thoughts in the comments below. And of course, subscribe to the channel for more videos like this. Thanks a lot for watching.